All right, everyone. I have just gotten word from our tech crew that we are all ready to go with setup, so I'm now going to hand it off to our runners and our commentators. Good luck, Andy and Temple. Take it away with the EarthBound Ancient Cave Randomizer race.
Hello, everyone. AndyPerfect here on site. Remotely, we have Temple, Airfram, and Chaz. You guys want to introduce yourselves?
Hello, I am Temple.
Hi,
I'm
Airfram.
Chaz. I'm Chaz. I'm the developer of the Ancient Cave Randomizer. I'm real excited to commentate this race today between Andy and Temple. Looking forward to it.
It's going to be a good one. Andy and Temple, do you have any quick words before we get started here, and we'll give you a countdown?
I have no words. I think we should just get into it. That was a long break. We're ready to go.
Yeah.
All right, let's go.
All right, we'll count down from 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. All right, Chaz, as the lead developer of this randomizer, please explain to me why we're not playing Lufia 2 right now.
Alrighty. The EarthBound Ancient Cave Randomizer is a thing we've developed that tapes out all the storyline elements of EarthBound. They're all gone. We won't see any cutscenes. We've jumped right into the game. We've ripped apart every room in the game, and we've recombined them into 9 different floors. Each of the floors is guarded by a shiny spot. At the end of the 9th floor is Gigas. All you have to do is walk to Gigas and beat him, and you win. It's that simple. Along the way, we'll be fighting randomized enemies, picking up randomized presents, with the enemies and the presents both growing in value and difficulty as we go along the way. And we'll see lots of interesting things as we do.
Seems really simple, but I'm sure there's going to be some catches along the way, because it can't be just walking into the door and beating Gigas like that, is it?
Well, if you don't have any items, you're going to be in a lot of trouble when you get to Gigas. So fortunately, these first few battles are pretty simple because you start with all 4 party members. We don't lose any party members. So when we're against these really early enemies, these crows and such, either just some bashing, or if you're going for this, trying to get out of them as fast as possible, Freeze Alphas will take care of pretty much anything along this first floor. But really, we're looking for any key items along the way. Oh, we've got a hint man. This is really helpful. The hint man now tells us who are the bosses of those 8 shiny spots. So we can see in spot 7, Ness's Nightmare, and our spot 8 boss is the Plague Rat of Doom. So when you're doing an Ancient Cave run, the last couple bosses that might give you the biggest challenge are some of the things to be most aware of. So that's real good information that Andy picked up by checking out that hint man there. And now Temple gets the hint here as well.
Yeah, early on in this floor here, Andy and Temple, what are you thinking of and what are you looking for as you fly through floor 1 here?
I mean, getting that Hitman is wonderful, knowing exactly what the boss list is coming up. That's super valuable information, kind of lets you know how do you need to prepare for certain bosses and how to kind of approach things, what items you're looking for in preparation.
Yeah, absolutely. Knowing that there's no Carbon Dog on this seed, Carbon Dog is the most difficult boss in EarthBound. There's a pool of about 30 so different enemy groups that can be considered bosses in EarthBound that those 8 bosses are chosen from. So if you get a rough seed, you get one with Carbon Dog as your floor 8 boss. This one, nope, just the Plague Rat of Doom.
You might also notice the fact that text is going extremely quickly, and that is thanks to the a little bit of the modification in the game called ludicrous text speed, where it's pretty self-describing.
Yeah, ludicrous text speed, and the characters are always at running speed. So between that and all of the cutscenes being cut out, it really accelerates the pace of the game. There's also a really big factor with the ludicrous text speed with the battles in EarthBound. If you're familiar with EarthBound, you may know about the battle mechanic has this roll down HP mechanic where those HPs roll down when you get hit, and you can still get off lots of attacks even after you've received lethal damage, as long as the HP hasn't rolled all the way down to 0. Well, with ludicrous text speed, you can get off a lot more actions than you might otherwise, which means when you're playing this randomizer, you can get into some pretty risky battles and really go for it. And these two runners are both very experienced runners of this randomizer. We've had 4 races over the years, 4 tournaments, I should say, and Andy has won one and Temple has won one. So these two are both exceptionally talented at running this rando.
I have to say, after seeing these modifications, mainly the instant text speed there, I have a hard time going back to the OG game just to go back and we're walking slow and the text is moving so slow and I'm like, move, move, move.
And
We see
having the
Temple
super
here
fast
coming to
text
the
speed is
boss.
super important also because this run is very, very quick compared to the main game. And if it weren't for super fast text speed, probably half the run would be watching your characters level up because we still need our characters at decently high level to take on Gigas.
All right, Temple has taken down the first shiny spot. That means he's going to move on to spot 2. So in the ancient cave, all of the rooms that are part of floor 1 are only connected to other floor 1 rooms except for through this shiny spot. So now he's on to floor 2, and all these doors he's going to be looking into and around on are other floor 2 doors or floor 2 rooms until he finds he may find the shiny spot that'll let him onto floor 3. Oh, here's an interesting thing. This is the Earth Pendant shop. The Earth Pendant is a super valuable item. It cuts the damage that you receive from many different types of attacks in half, but we're very early on and we don't have any money to pick up those Earth Pendants, but Temple may want to remember that is there.
It may be worth backtracking later on to come find this shop just for some of the resistances, especially if later on some of the key items that we'll talk about later are not plentiful and you may be limited on them.
So, interestingly, Andy is taking this boss fight, this Frankenstein fight. This is not one of the bosses that's guarding a room. This is just where Frank normally is in the game. And so I said that most of the storyline of elements of EarthBound have been cut out, but there are still a couple sitting around that you can interact with if you choose to. So Andy's interacted with the scripted enemy. It doesn't follow the difficulty of the floor. Rather, it's the difficulty of the enemy is naturally in the game. So he's going to get a little bit more experience from beating Frank. And then also there's this fact that Frank gives you a full heal if you go and talk to Frank after you've beaten him. So he's got a little full heal spot here on this floor.
Yeah, and if this
So
were on
that's
floor 1 and I was already at full health, I probably wouldn't bother, but it's just a nice little HP boost this early on. And
yeah,
a
so
full
it's
heal.
some of the interesting things that you get when you rip apart the entire game's code and just put the rooms back together. You get some interesting little things like this, and experienced runners like these two know all the tricks to do something about that.
Something I'd like to know is, with the items being scaled as you move along the floors, how much time do our runners spend going for gift boxes? Because in there might be some key items, because as they get into floor 2 here, there are things about elevators that we'll talk about if we come across one. So how often do our runners go out of their way looking for either some easy equipment or maybe a glimpse at one of those key items?
Andy, what's your strategy with gift boxes?
On early floors, I generally just go for everything. As it gets a little later, I mean, and I won't go super out of my way because definitely items scale to the floor you're on. A second, I'm just trying to figure out. I just did a loop, and I'm trying to figure out where on Earth I am.
Sure. So the thing about the way the items pool works in this randomizer is all of the possible equipment that your characters could hit. If the equipment could be used on all the characters, then there's 3 copies of it, and if it can only be used on one character, then 1 copy of it, are all put together in a pool. And about 60% of that pool is used, and 40% of that pool is thrown away. And then those items are placed in chests all over the world, scaling in value as you go later into the cave, and then the rest of the gift boxes are filled with normal consumable items, your hamburgers, your bottle rockets, your so on. That means there's no guarantee that any particular equipment will appear in any particular seed, but there's a likelihood that you're going to be getting better and better equipment as you go along.
Childlike Nibbler down.
There goes the Nibbler.
The enemy names have also
And
been
now
randomized,
Andy is-
and they're so good.
Yes, the names have been randomized, the palettes have been randomized, but also the attributes have been shuffled and randomized. That means an enemy that is freeze resistant in the original game is not necessarily freeze resistant in this one. Resistances change sometimes, not always, but sometimes. So normally you can go off of what you know about the enemy, but not always.
Temple, what's your approach to this floor now that you're onto floor 2? What are you thinking over there?
I'm just trying to get through. Nothing really major, you know. Just find the boss. I mean, I'll get items and stuff, but I'm not necessarily seeking out good items. Just the next floor.
Right. Our runners are either looking for the shiny spot onto the next floor, or they may be looking for an elevator. So one of the features of this randomizer, like I said, there's 9 floors, and generally you're walking floor by floor on your way to Gigas. However, like I said, we've ripped apart all of the storyline, but there are still things around. Like, for instance, if you go to the Chaos Theater, there's the person standing in the way that wants to take your ticket. If you have the ticket to give to the Chaos Theater person, he'll move out of your way, and then you can go past there, and then you're no longer on the same floor, because that's not just a door you can normally walk through. In this randomizer, we consider those elevators. Anything where you need to get an NPC out of the way, even if it doesn't require anything. But if you have to do something to get an NPC out of the way, that's an elevator through that door. And that will take you from a minimum of 2 and up to 5 floors away from where you currently are. So they could get an elevator here from floor 2 where they are now to floor 4, or possibly all the way up to floor 7. And good use of elevators is what brings runners for the Ancient Cave to the most impressive times. And of course, these two being tournament winners, they're both very adept at using these elevators. Now, part of the difficulty of that is you get dropped onto a later floor with much more difficult enemies, and you don't have the levels or the equipment to deal with it. So you have to be playing at the top level of your skill once you get through one of those elevators to establish yourself on the new floor and get the levels and find the new equipment that you need.
There's a lot of chances that you end up on the floor with Freeze Alpha, and you're trying to figure out what you can do with that.
So we've got the ice cream fountain here. This is a full heal. Each of the floors features at least one free full heal. That's usually the sanctuary locations like you see here on Temple's screen. Those will be a free full revive for your party. If you can't find the full heal on your floor, you may have to use the doctor or use the hospital or some of the other features that actually don't end up being used in the base game of EarthBound that often. Like, how often do you end up needing to go to the doctor to heal poisoning in the base game of EarthBound? Certainly some of the doctors are in areas where you would never get poisoned in the base game of EarthBound. So they would never get used. But here, you know, the doctor could be through any door, and an enemy that could poison you could be on any floor. So
I think I'm hitting every single
be fun
possible
while
dead end
you,
so far.
Not dead
Yeah,
end,
this
just seeing
floor
floors, Andy.
This floor too has been tricky. As I said, our runners are both very experienced Ancient Cave randomizers. They said, "Give us a tricky one."
Oh gosh, I didn't say that.
We picked...
I said,
The
We
words
made
were
sure we
fed to me.
picked
I was the lead of the QA team for this.
We made sure to pick a seed that's not going to be a cakewalk. Another thing we can talk about is you've almost certainly noticed the sprites are different. For instance, you do not normally have the Golden Girls wandering through Eagle Town.
You should.
You should. So our sprite incentives give us a cast of Mother 3 for Andy and the cast of the Golden Girls for Temple. We've had a number of people that have contributed sprites, especially DEFCON. Shout out to DEFCON who made both of these sets of sprites that you're seeing here. And we've had dozens of other contributors for custom sprites. So when you're doing any seed, you can choose which custom sprites that you would like to have as your party. We also have the possibility for custom music. We don't have that on this seed, but also I just want to give huge thanks to all of the spriters and musicians who've contributed their work to the randomizer over the years. I really appreciate all of you, and it just really makes this ancient cave special, the work that you all have put in. So thank you all for letting me use your work in this randomizer.
Yeah, as a player, I have to say thank you. It helps keep everything fresh, and it's great to see all these additional things above and beyond the vanilla Earthbound game.
So we saw Temple do another shiny spot, so Temple is on to floor 3. So something they may be interested in looking for around floor 3 is in that item pool that I was talking about, the items that are distributed into the gift boxes all over the world. One of the items that are in there are the Franklin badges. The Franklin badge, which deflects all lightning attacks, is normally given to you by storyline events. We've ripped out storyline events, so instead the Franklin badge can show up in item box. And in fact, we put 2 Franklin badges into the item pool. And as you recall, some of the item pool is used and some is thrown away at random. So in any given seed, we may have 0, 1, or 2 Franklin badges in boxes along the way. And usually, if those exist, one may be early in the cave and one may be late in the cave. So starting on about floor 3 is about where there's a possibility for a Franklin badge to show up in an item box.
And if you get lucky, you might find a third one along the way if you come across Paula locked in her cabin.
That's true. As I said, the storyline elements have been ripped out, but they're still kind of there, kind of hanging out. Well, that's interesting. A bazooka in the shop there for Temple. That's a reusable bomb item for Jeff.
It's a good item to pick up if you can afford it around this time around. One of my favorite story elements that remains is if you end up in the left side of Tapala Theater, you have a mandatory break for about a minute to put down your controller and watch a show.
Yeah, Jazz mentioned earlier there's no cutscenes, but I was going to call that out.
There's one cutscene remaining in the game, the showtime, just because everyone needs a good showtime now and then. And you get to sit back in your speedrun for 90 seconds and watch the show, and I think everyone should enjoy that.
One of my favorite applications of it is 2 rooms before the final boss. It shows up, you have nothing to do, but you have to go through it every time.
Multi-bottle rockets now in the shop for Temple again. We're pretty early, so I don't think we have the cash to do anything about that. Curbster asked if it's weird for people to know what floor their opponent is on. Yes, normally that information is not public in a race. Normally the runners are not listening to commentary when a race is going on, but we wanted to make sure that the runners have an opportunity to speak up if there's anything going on and give their voice about what's going on. We're kind of showing off the randomizer more than being the most competitive race, because Lord knows these two have done races at a high level against each other plenty of times.
It's nice to not be stressed, stressed for once.
I think they've only not matched up in one tournament so far.
So shop contents are also randomized, but they're randomized in a way that they have similar items to what they normally have. So one of the most important factors of this is, just like in the base game of EarthBound, in this randomizer, multi-bottle rockets and super bombs are some of the most important consumable items there are. And those items are often found by the arms dealer. So whenever you see an arms dealer, regardless of what he has in the base game of EarthBound, it's always worth checking out, because he may or may not have multi-bottle rockets and super bombs, because the arms dealer has those sorts of items. So he'll usually have those sorts of items in the randomizer. Temple is in northern Scaraba, and it's one of those hub rooms. So whenever you're exploring a maze and trying to find your way out of the maze and onto the next part of the floor, getting to these town rooms or these city rooms with many, many doors is some of the most difficult parts of doing it. Tucson, I believe, has... Is it Tucson or Central Onet? Now I can't remember which has the most doors.
Tucson has the highest, I think, followed by Central Onet. Then Threed?
Sounds about right. I have a list. I can check for you. Yes, Tucson has 19 different doors on it. So when you're coming into a seed and you go to Tucson and you have 19 different doors to look at, and one of them is the correct door, oof. And especially if you
And
end up with
Tucson's right
Tucson and
apart.
Central on the same floor.
Oh.
The really difficult part is when you take a skip onto or an elevator, as Chaz was talking about. When you take an elevator onto a certain floor, you don't know which direction is forward or backward. And you're just praying that as you progress, you're going forward. And it's always very demoralizing once you realize, oh gosh, I've taken like 13 doors and I'm backwards.
That's true.
There's
Our runners.
one key for these runners to figure out where they're at is if they've been to a floor before, they take an elevator and they end up going backwards and hear the same music track, they'll identify that they've gone backwards.
That's true. Each floor has a consistent music track, so every room on the floor ends up with the same music track. And also, even if you skip forward, you don't know what floor you're on, you can usually guess what floor you're on once you're an experienced runner by what sort of items are in chests and what sort of enemies you face on that floor. Of course, that doesn't make it any easier to beat those enemies, but these are experienced runners after all. I have full faith in them. Temple going down, trying to check out this.
I didn't know I could fight
chest
4
below
zombies.
the shiny spot. Yeah, that's a lot of zombies.
Yeah. Having a party over there.
All right,
Thanks for inviting us.
maniacal liches.
Temple taking on the boss of the 3rd floor? Yeah, the 3rd floor.
This is an interesting one. This is, I believe, Starman Jr., correct?
Yes,
Was this
it is
boss?
Starman Jr.
So it's interesting because when you fight Starman Jr. in vanilla Earthbound, you of course have Buzz with you, and so the fight is essentially scripted to be unlosable. Buzz gives you a shield, then Buzz attacks, Buzz gives you a shield, and Buzz attacks, and you're just kind of there as an observer. In the Ancient Cave, there is no Buzz. You just have to beat Starman Jr. Of course, by this point, that was the boss of floor 3, I believe, so we have more than enough levels and equipment and psychic powers to take him down.
And fortunately, a shield to just deal with any PSI attacks that might have come their way there. Andy finding the multi-bottle rockets now, he'll probably want to take note of that as well. And thank you for not selecting end there, Andy. That you made me nervous.
I was in Moonside mode thinking I needed to do the opposite.
All right, about 1 minute ago, Temple picked up a pencil eraser. Again, storyline element, and now it's in a box. And the reason it's in a box is because it is one of the elevator enabling items. So the pencil erasers are some of those NPCs that I were talking about that are in the way between you and taking an elevator to a much deeper floor. So now if Temple comes across or can remember where one of those pencil statues are and wants to go back to a pencil statue, or comes across one in the future, Temple can take that elevator, whereas otherwise that elevator is blocked off.
Yeah, how many rooms are there with that elevator? We've got, what, Peaceful Rest Valley, we got Winters, we got another place, right? A Monkey Cave room.
Yes, the 3 elevators connected to the... Okay, so here we go. This is Happy Village, and this is the free shop. And as I said, the shops are randomized. So, as you may know in the game, this is a self-service shop where you pick what you want out of the shop and then you choose how much you want to pay. Well, that's still the case here in the randomizer, but the contents of the shop have been randomized. So, it's free water.
I have to laugh a little bit that with the free shop, there is a computer NPC on the other side of the tree just contributing to the free shop. Just like there on the ground. It's just
Water
funny
and
to me.
vipers. What else do you need? Temple is loaded on water and vipers. Going for the slingshot. Wow. I've seen a lot of things in Earthbound Randomizer that you don't normally see in the base game. I don't know that I have yet seen taking off the yo-yo to put on the bionic slingshot. That might be the first time I've seen that.
What are we
can bring
thinking
it down
here?
here.
since we're a little bit in, do we have any? Can we get 1 or 2 donations?
We sure can. We have a $15 donation from Boing. Thanks for the awesome years, Temple, Andy, and many other community members for keeping the Earthbound community going strong. You all are the best. We also have a $250 donation from Daniel RGT. Hi, Temple. Hi, Andy. How's Plant doing? I hope well. Thanks for being an inspiration to not only myself, but the rest of the Earthbound community. Please be sure to appreciate any bookas you see along the way. Don't forget, bookas are very important to a balanced ancient cave run.
Ain't that the truth? Yeah, I should say, both Andy and Temple are legends of the normal Earthbound speedrunning community, of which I am not really a part. I'm kind of a Johnny-come-lately, came along to do this randomizer. But any percent runs, any percent glitchless runs, photo percent, Earthbound has a long history with a lot of great people of speedruns. It's been fun to be vaguely a part of that through making this randomizer.
I'm pretty sure the odds of a zombie dog and 2 flies right here are like 95%. I gave up.
And really, in addition to all the different speedrunning categories, there are also multiple Earthbound randomizers. Really, Tomato made the first Earthbound reshuffler back in 2012, back in the very beginning of the randomizer boom, really. And then there's this one, the Ancient Cave randomizer, which was originally created by Abyssinem, and then I took it over shortly afterward. And then we also have a more traditional key item randomizer made by Jay Tolmar that's called PK Scramble. So Earthbound has both a long history and a rich presence in randomizers, I would say.
On a side note, I'm pretty sure
We are
that
very
Android
blessed
has
to have everything.
reflected my fire back at me.
Did it really? I missed
Yeah.
that.
Like I said, the stats of the enemies have a chance of being randomized. You may see shields on enemies where they have not been shields before. I saw a shield on Pokey once. The runner was not expecting that. They were not happy.
I'm seeing one of the stat changes here over with Starman Jr. Actually, I don't remember the vanilla, but Starman Jr. is not taking psi attacks very well, but a Thunder quickly dispatched it there for Andy.
It's unfair that I only get 16 experience for that.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a little
It
more
was all
difficult
about the
fight than that.
exposure.
Right, is actually rather surprising. We are 26 minutes in and we have not seen any elevators being taken. I don't
You're about
think,
to,
unless I
because I just
missed
found the
one.
elevator item I needed.
Okay, all right, so this is
There you
interesting.
go,
So we
you're
have
going for it.
we have a divergence here. So Temple found that pencil eraser and just proceeded forward. Andy has decided to backtrack because Andy saw this pencil right here. Yeah, that's a pencil. Don't worry about what the sprite looks like. That's a pencil.
Andy, what are you doing to that guy?
And so now Andy has taken a skip onto Central on it.
Based on the enemies that I've already seen,
Ah.
I'm guessing this is either floor 6 or 7.
So you remember how I was saying that going onto a deep skip is difficult and you need to establish yourself, and that also encountering a large room is extremely difficult. Well, have two difficult things at the same time.
And 2 dead party members.
And
Yeah.
diamonds, which you don't quite know what they are or where you're at, so you're kind of
I'm
in a
guessing they're
happy spot.
the Winter's enemies.
Yeah, it looks like that's probably it.
door. Don't get me.
Oh yeah. So so one of the things that gives trouble to new runners of Earthbound Ancient Cave Randomizer is remembering which doors are knock doors and which doors are doors you can enter, because those do not change. If it's a door you cannot enter in vanilla Earthbound, then it's also a door you cannot enter in the randomizer. And in these cities, especially Onett and Tucson, there are a large number of doors that you can enter and a large number you can't. And distinguishing between them, well, you just got to learn them, unfortunately.
Speaking and as an experienced runner, I can testify that I have not.
I haven't either. And I did it in the old reshuffler days.
Right, so Andy has to take yet another fight here with only 2 party members alive. Yeah, this is going to be difficult.
Yeah, I'm just desperately looking for a full heal right now so I can kind of stabilize on this floor and try and get some experience.
Right. I suppose the good.
Go ahead.
I would say, I suppose the good thing about coming into a large hub room like this off of a skip is it gives you a large number of doors behind which may be the free full heal for that floor. And when you're coming in off of a skip, that's one of the things that you would most like to find. Andy went ahead, and I don't know if you saw that because the menuing was very fast, but used the exit mouse to mark a location. So this is one of the big changes that we've made here in the EarthBound Ancient Cave Randomizer as kind of a quality of life thing. Normally the exit mouse is like an escape rope. It takes you out to the beginning of whatever dungeon you're in. Well, of course, in the Ancient Cave, there's no real concept of whatever dungeon you're in because the rooms have all been mixed up. So this is interesting, and Andy has found the boss of this floor.
It's really tempting to check it because I know I'm going to die anyway and find out what floor I'm on. Just out of
I think Ness
morbid
is
curiosity.
dead, right? So it won't. If
Oh,
Ness
yeah,
is
that's
dead,
right.
then it won't tell you what floor you're on. It'll just say only Ness can absorb the power of this place.
Unfortunately, Salsa is not Ness.
No, Salsa is not Ness. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. What was I saying?
Well, I'll pick it up there. Fortunately, if Andy had Ness available and he were to take a death on whatever boss that was, he can easily backtrack from whatever his last save was. If he has a last save, to be honest, I don't even remember if he does.
Yeah, I saved in the Moonside Hotel.
Oh, I was
And
talking
right
about
now-
the exit mouse.
Yes. Oh, yeah,
Why
mouse.
So we've reworked the exit mouse to instead work like the bread and breadcrumb does in Mother 1, kind of a throwback to that game, in that any location you're standing at, you can mark the exit mouse, and the exit mouse will remember that location. And then anytime later in the future, even after you take a death, you can use the exit mouse and go to that location, and that uses up the exit mouse, but it will teleport you to whatever location you marked. And then you're free to pick up another exit mouse if you find any in your wanderings around the cave. So it's
There
a
are
fun
so many
little
different
quality
ways
of
to
life
use it.
improvement.
You can use it to go backwards. You can use it to mark a very forward spot that you drove to and you're trying to find some place to heal. There's so many different strategic ways to use that mouse.
So Andy has just found out by talking to the hint man that this is the 8th floor. So this skip was on to floor 8. It was a maximum skip from 3 to 8. So now he's got to decide with that information, what will he do?
I have no idea.
I see a question in chat here. PSI teleport is not enabled in this randomizer because of the way the floors are grouped. It just would pretty much break the game, I assume, Chaz, if you were to start teleporting around.
Yeah, it doesn't really make any sense in the context of the ancient cave.
Yeah, being on
as we
floor
talked
8 and
about-
with everybody dead, pretty much all I'm doing is looking for a way to get party members alive and then like take a fight with like a single enemy so I can have a hope of winning and start reaching some kind of equilibrium on this floor because I'm way under leveled right now.
Yeah, that's the general strat when you skip onto a deep floor is A, you want everyone alive, and B, you want to take a fight against a single enemy because then with the roll down text and the roll down HP and the automatic text speed, if you unleash everything you've got, you can almost certainly take out one enemy. And then the much higher level of XP you get will give you lots of levels for all of your party members, and then you can kind of get the ball rolling.
That's one of the reasons
So
why the
interesting.
more experienced runners here are not afraid to make these huge jumps, is because they can quickly catch up to where they need to be to take on that floor.
All right, so Andy gets is getting everyone alive here, I think.
I can't get rid of the
Except he
time
needs someone to
Doctor-
soften.
Oh yeah, the doctor cannot soften. You need the healer, and that was the Happy Village Hospital House, and the healer is actually outside the Happy Village Hospital House. So this is an instance where like the doctor and the nurse are there, but the healer is not there. But 3 of the 4 characters alive. Now we have a chance of taking out a single enemy and getting a lot of levels and getting established here on this floor. So it's interesting that Temple is, I think, still on floor 4, if I remember correctly, maybe up to 5.
I haven't seen another boss yet. Just kind of going forward.
So in
Yeah, I'm still
theory,
on
Andy is. So in theory, Andy is far ahead of Temple, but Temple is in a much better spot to be making forward progress. And additionally, Andy, by skipping all of those floors, did skip the opportunity to pick up items along all of those floors. And some of those items are going to be really important. We haven't really talked about what you need to beat Gigas, but generally if you go in with no items, no matter what level you are, you're going to have a nearly impossible time with Gigas. You're going to want some items along the way. Items like the Franklin badge, items like a sea pendant or a star pendant, or at least an earth pendant that will stop the damage from a lot of Gigas's elemental-based attacks. Other items like bazookas or heavy bazookas to increase damage, or bashing equipment for your characters to increase damage and actually be able to get out of the fights. Possibly consumables like super bombs or multi-bottle rockets, again, to do the damage. And if you do a deep skip, you do sacrifice some opportunities to pick up those items.
Maybe if they get fortunate, they might be able to find the shop that sells secret herbs or a cup of life noodles, or find a spot for that. But by skipping all that, it just gets harder and harder.
Mm-hmm. Another possibility is Andy has done the skip from 3 to 8. That's a deep skip. Temple may end up finding a skip from 5 to 9. And this, depending on the seed, this could be extremely important if the boss for floor 8 is very difficult, like Carbon Dog or Diamond Dog. In which case, going deeper to find a skip that ends up taking you past whatever that very difficult enemy is might be super valuable. Now, in this case, we already know that the floor 8 boss is just Playground of Doom, so it's probably not going to be an issue, but it's something to take into mind, especially if you haven't found a Hitman yet, so you don't know what bosses may be coming your way.
Yeah, the big thing is once a player gets to floor 8 and they know what's ahead, and if they're having a terrible time, they will not be able to skip onto floor 9 because it's right next to it. They'd have to go back a floor to floor 7 to find one of those elevators that could potentially take it to 9.
Gripser asked, I did not actually create the first version of this randomizer. This was commissioned by the EarthBound speedrunning community from Abyssinem, who's created a number of randomizers for a number of different games, the prolific randomizer creator. And then after his initial creation, I've taken the ball and run with it, and it is many, many more times larger and more complex than the original commissioned version. But yeah, the original idea was not mine. It was I don't know if the idea was given to Abyssinem to make it this way, or if it was Abyssinim's idea. But yeah, Andy takes a death here.
Andy taking a death.
Not too surprising with a skip onto a deep floor. Deaths are to be expected.
One of the things these runners in a normal race start to worry about as they get further and further into the seed is, where are each other at in the seed? Did they take a different skip? Or did they follow on the same path? It starts to get the fear that they're further ahead and potentially winning, and whether or not they need to take more risks. In a normal situation.
Right. Trying to work on these deep floors when you've just got one character alive is difficult. You have to do a lot of running away, a lot of stutter stepping in order to try and get enemies to not move, and a lot of good map knowledge and game knowledge. But Andy has that, so if anyone can get established on the floor, I believe in him.
I see Temple offloading some of his cheap equipment here, freeing up some inventory space.
All right, Andy has found the full heal, the sanctuary here on floor 8. That is huge.
Interestingly, it was right next to the other full heal that I already had.
Oh, you already had found a full heal?
Yeah, here in Magic Ant with Ness's mom.
Oh, right, yes, the Ness's mom one. Okay, so I should have mentioned this when we
funny
first got
together.
Yeah, I mean, the randomizer can be rude like that. Here, would you like to have 2 free full heals on the same floor?
I keep
Oh,
getting
they're
these
10
random
seconds
enemies
away
hiding
from each
behind
other.
buildings.
Do you want to talk to your mother, or are you mad at your mother? In the game, mother.
Through the blue room, picking up some items, and... Temple, did you take a skip?
Yes.
Okay. I was gonna say, I see fire enemies, and you don't see fire enemies on floor 4,
Oh.
so...
And there's a star pendant.
Alright, the star pendant is big. As we were talking about the items that you need for Gigas, you don't necessarily need a star pendant, a C or a star pendant. They're essentially the same item.
Yo, that is
a wiggle
endgame
room.
right there.
Alright, so... Let's recap. Temple has found a skip onto floor 9. We know it's floor 9 because that was the Gigas room inside that door. We've found 1 star pendant. We have no other items really of relevance for Gigas whatsoever. And there's a full heal, but there's no save. So this is where Temple is, not ready to try and beat Gigas with this current loadout. So the good thing is Temple knows he's on floor 9, and there's usually good equipment on floor 9, so it's time to go looking for the things that we need to beat Gigas.
And to gain several levels since he skipped onto this floor, because if he were to attempt it right now, I'm sure it would end in a very unpleasant time.
Temple getting the free $50. Just talk to this fellow a lot. You get $50. That's in the vanilla game.
On Andy's side, he came into the backside of the boss, which is the end of the previous floor. And if for some reason you haven't found the boss of the floor you're on, you can take a strategic fight from behind to figure out where you're at and gain some experience if needed.
So something that we haven't seen, that we may still yet see here, is a special item that was created for this randomizer called the Auto Star Master. As I've mentioned, we ripped out all the storyline of EarthBound, and Pooh normally learns PSI Starstorm not from getting levels, but from storyline events. So instead, we've made an item called the Auto Star Master and put between 0 and 2 of them, up to 2, in chests throughout the maze. And you just find the item, you use it, and you learn Starstorm Alpha the first time you use it, and Starstorm Omega the second time you use it. So neither runner has found one of those yet, and there's no guarantee that there is one in this floor, because as I mentioned, of the item pool, of the equipment pool, about 40% of it gets thrown away. So we may have both of those Auto Star Masters, or we may have neither in this seed. We may have both of the Franklin badges, or we may have neither, or possibly just one.
If any of you are interested in doing this for your first time, there is a spoiler map that Chaz and I are actually looking at right now and just being cautious with the information because we have both the runners here. But you can look at it and use it as guidance for your first run and help yourself walk through it by seeing where everything is and getting used to the game.
Yeah. And there's also a little tips and tricks guide that we've given with a lot of the advice that different runners have come up with over the years on how to get going on your first ancient cave. That's available right on the website when you check out the randomizer. Our runners are kind of looking around for items and getting established. We have some time for some donations if we've got any.
We sure do have quite a few donations. We have $25 from Boing. Thanks for the years of keeping the EarthBound community strong, y'all. Runners, contributors, mods, and viewers. Y'all are great. We also have $25 from Rujasu55. This event has been incredible so far. Can't wait to see what the rest of the week has in store. Good luck to both runners in the EarthBound race. We have $50 from Binskits. EarthBound Ancient Cave? No idea this existed. You cannot comprehend the true form of Gigas' jelly. We have $150 from Aurelia. Watch out for Bookus. Put $25 towards each runner's choice, each commentator's choice, host choice, and donation station's choice for making you track all of that. That is a lot of choices. We have $25 from Seawalker777. In honor of the EarthBound community, I learned about speedrunning from them and started streaming and speedrunning because of them. We have $10 from ASmith1313. Hooray for EarthBound. Never seen it look like this though.
Yeah, it looks a little different these ways. Palette randomization is also an option. So you can, the areas themselves can look quite different, as well as
Andy,
obviously the sprites.
Andy, what made you take the risk to go all the ways out through the magic and spiral there with no easy way to get off of it?
I mean, I'm on floor 8. I have a save in this magic ant area, so if I die, I'm right back here. And it's just taking a big skip. I'm desperate looking for any kind of gear. That was mostly the thought process behind it. I found an earth pendant, found a flame pendant, which I guess is not really valuable for Gigas. But I got an earth pendant and a secret herb out of it. Not terrible.
It's not bad.
They're good
Temple,
items.
we got Brune over there.
Sorry, what was the question?
What you got brewing on your mind over there as you
brewing.
scramble around this floor?
I've kind of figured out that this floor is not very huge. I found the floor 8 boss door. So I'm just kind of trying to find a good spot that I can save and grind some levels, mostly find some more stuff.
So another thing that's been randomized from vanilla is the stat growth of the characters. So in the vanilla game, you may know that Paula has low HP growth. Her HP is always quite a bit under the other characters. In this game, that stat growth gets randomized, so you may have Ness be the low HP character, or you may have Pooh be a very high psychic point character or a very low psychic point character. And it's possible to roll badly for all of the characters, and those are always the really fun scenes, where even if you grind, your characters just seem to barely climb in stats at all. I don't know how the stat growth is looking in this seed so far. What do you guys think?
I take your name in vain when that happens. Something else to look at is the special abilities of the characters also are shuffled around. So you know how Paula is normally the prey character? Has anyone noticed who the prey character is this time around? Take a look at the battle menus, the next battle you're in, and see who your prey character is, who has spy and who has mirror.
Hey, it's a Pooh prey seed. And this has a lot of impact on your decisions in the late game, especially in the Gigas fight, because if you're at all familiar with EarthBound, you may know that the way you beat the very final form of Gigas is by praying 9 times. So whatever your prey character is the only character that has to stay alive. And any of the non-Ness characters can end up being your prey character. When Pooh is your prey character also has a life up ability on the same character. That means that it can actually end up being a little bit safer if Pooh is your prey character, because you only need to keep one character alive that can also life up itself.
But Pooh also hates to wear items that resist some of the attacks that are coming in, except for very special items.
That's true. If you equip the C or the star pendant, as you will normally want to do to give the resistance to freeze attacks and fire attacks and flash attacks, then what you will end up with is Pooh's defense being lowered, so he'll be weaker to physical attacks. Temple is in the face room. Temple did talk to Face earlier. I promise you. I'm sure he'll talk to Face again. It's a full heal 1 room away from Gigas, so I imagine there will be lots of talking to Face in this seed.
I'm just judging Temple for not talking to Face for coming back in. That's all I'm doing in chat there right now.
You should always talk to Face at every opportunity. I agree.
Face is a pretty good full. It's a full heal, right?
Yeah, it revives everybody.
Yes, it is a full heal. It's interesting the things that you would think are full heals but are not full heals. The Talarama is only full heals your first 3 party members. It does not do anything to Pooh. The free in that is Frank, after you beat Frank, we saw Andy beat Frank earlier on. If you talk to Frank when Ness is dead, Frank will not heal your other characters. He only heals your characters if... Yeah, this is a vanilla feature. Because, like, when would you ever go talk to Frank when Ness is dead and you have other party members? When would you ever be back in on net and do that? But they coded it in the vanilla game that Frank will not heal your other party members because Frank only knows Ness. Ness is the one who beat Frank. These other people, he has no idea who they are.
And
I'm over here trying to remember where on
Ooh.
Earth the floor 8 boss was. I found him, but I can't remember where he was.
Oh, that's right. We saw him earlier, but yeah, there's so many rooms in EarthBound, and many of them do look a surprisingly lot alike. So it's especially your first run or two through the maze, you can get quite lost, which is why that spoiler guide is. There's no shame in using the spoiler guide, and also in taking multiple sessions to play it out. Going for a bit, saving, picking it up another day, perfectly fine when you're doing your first Ancient Cave run. Enemies do spawn in that room in the Ancient Cave. Yes, the Wiggle Room does have enemies. I think it was always made for enemies. There's all these little side paths you can try darting down, but then they reconnect. I think that room was made for enemies. I think I improved the design of the game by putting enemies in there.
Punishes you for
Most
trying to take shortcuts and pincer you when you take a side path.
For some reason, all these runners, when they're just trying to get to Gigas and they're encountering the strongest enemies in the game, for some reason they don't like the fact that I've put enemies in that room. I don't really understand. I think
they're just jealous of your coding ability. And Andy
All right, there we
getting
go.
back to the boss he's looking for.
Yep, there's our floor 8 boss. Oh, was that a fail on the secret herb?
Indeed it was.
Secret herb revives party members 75% of the time. It's an
100% of
interesting
the time.
mechanic.
I forget if... I know Plague Rat is susceptible to something, but I don't remember what it is.
You could always spy and find
yeah.
out.
That's true. Spy has been improved. Spy and Mirror are kind of useless ability. Not useless. Less than useful abilities in the vanilla game. We've improved them. As you can see here, Spy is telling us exactly what percentage of weakness that an enemy is to various things like Brain Shock, Freeze, Fire, etc. Mirror has been improved in that the mirror chances for all enemies have been increased. Especially late in the game, there's so many enemies that have a 0% mirror success rate that it's almost not worth using mirror anytime. So the chance of mirror success has been bumped up by 1 notch for basically everything in the game. Which can also be an interesting strategy when you're up against Carbon Dog, Diamond Dog, is going for the mirror strats.
That's one of my favorite fringe cases of mirror being useful, mirroring Diamond Dog and using its skills against itself.
I just failed a 99% roll.
Oh no!
Brain Shock is supposedly 99% effective, and I failed.
Oh, that's no good.
We're seeing smashes all around now, too.
Yeah, the Plague Rat of Doom has the at least in its unshuffled form, has the highest guts stat of any enemy, I believe. Which means it's going to do lots of smashes, and interestingly, it also means that you're going to do lots of gut save. I don't know if you saw, but Ness did a gut save there. Something we discovered recently, within the last couple of years, in the EarthBound hacking and decompiling community, is we discovered that there is a bug in the base game of EarthBound and how it computes gut saves. Gut save in EarthBound, if you're not familiar, is when you take lethal damage but you end up living through it on 1 HP. It's supposed to be based on your character's guts. It's actually based on the attacker's guts because of a programming error. So if you're up against an enemy with really high guts, then your odds of gut saving are higher.
Wait, really?
Fun
A
fact
90s
that
game
we only
programmed.
we only discovered that within the last year or two.
I didn't know that.
The PK hack community that yeah, well, it's not been widely publicized. I don't know. Maybe someone should make a YouTube video about a weird thing they've discovered in the EarthBound code. But the EarthBound PK hacking community, which has been going on for over 20 years, the community that's been hacking at this game, coming up on 25 years of the PK hack community, as we call ourselves, working on learning the secrets of this game, and we are still learning stuff. And there are so many people doing such amazing work in the PK hack community, taking the game apart and learning how it works, and we've got it decompiled and running on Windows, and it's truly amazing things happening in the community. The other positive effects of guts still work correctly, yes. Everything else I checked about how guts work works as described. That was the only one that I found. Again, it's no easy task to look through a game and try and figure out exactly how it works. But
I'm trying to
near as
remember,
I
were
can
there any
tell,
other
that-
corrections you had to make?
there have been a number of things that have been known for longer than the guts error. Trying to think of any interesting ones off the top of my head, and none of them are coming to me right now. Simultaneous
I think
defeat
most-
glitch? I can't remember exactly how that one works. But there
Well-
is a glitch that happens if you're up against like an exploding enemy, and you die at the same time. One of your characters dies at the same time that the enemy dies. It doesn't work exactly how you expect it to.
I remember early on when I ended up finding a skip 1 to 9 in the early days of this randomizer, enemies right at the door caused major issues before the transition completed.
Oh yes, we've had to fix lots of bugs in the randomizer over the years, and corner cases that the randomizer came up with that EarthBound itself never gave you. But you know, that's par for the course. They were making that game. I have spent many years on this randomizer, and they had less than 1 year to program EarthBound, so it's not surprising. Right, our runner's still working on.
They're kind of exploring here. I'd say let's throw it over for another 2 or 3 donations while we got some exploring going on.
All right. We have $50 from Binskits. You cannot comprehend the true form of Gigas' jelly. We have $50 from Binskits. You cannot comprehend the true form of Gigas' banana. We have $50 from Binskits. You cannot comprehend the true form of Gigas' Dekar blade? That's a lovely
I think
tube
I only heard
reference.
one donation there.
There were 3 there. Also, while I've got the mic, I would like to check in on a couple incentives we have coming up for our next run. That is Pool of Radiance. We have the bonus New Game Plus run. We have raised $140, but we still have $360 to go for that $500 bonus run incentive. We also have the Small Broken City glitch, where we have, I think, around $170 to raise for that incentive. So if you would like to see those 2 after our next run, make sure you get your donations in for those and add in Pool of Radiance to your donation.
Excellent. All right, Andy's doing some hard grind and getting some levels. One of the other things that our runners are going to need levels for, Oh, sorry, that was an interesting sprite replacement on the sign with a shadow on the ground. That was blocking Temple there. I was distracted. I'm like, what is blocking him? There's just a shadow. Oh, right, that's supposed to be a sign. One of the reasons our runners need levels is because to beat Gigas, one of the things that you maybe not need, but certainly would like to have, is Paula's psychic shield that applies to the whole party. So that's Shield Gamma. And the exact level that you get it has been slightly randomized, but it's generally somewhere in the mid-30s. So even if you get to Gigas very early and with a lot of good items, you'll usually need to level up to get that Shield Gamma. It is possible. Some people have been able to beat Gigas without the Shield Gamma and with just this single shield. But you really need that fight to go well, and you need a lot of good equipment in order to make that work. And our runners do not have the loadouts that you would need to do that battle, I don't think.
No, not yet. Let's talk about Temple side here for a minute here. Temple was on floor 9, but Temple ended up taking a skip to an earlier floor. He's probably not sure which floor it is. He probably has an idea based on the enemies, though. And that is something you can do once you know where you're at 9 and have a very easy skip like the Tapala Theater, where all you need is $30 to get back in, or maybe less depending on characters. Oh, no, it's still 30. Never mind. Ignore that. But he's looking for some equipment and maybe something that might be a more convenient hub to make a base out of for the Gigas fight if it's closer to the wiggle room.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to get around these earlier floors if you're looking around for, say, those arms dealers for maybe picking up super bombs or multi-bottle rockets, if you have a rabbit's foot for Jeff, in order to give yourself some ammunition to get through the Gigas fight. Trying to wander around floor 9 is difficult. Those enemies, those late-game EarthBound enemies are absolutely brutal, even if you are a high level and have good equipment. They have diamondizing attacks, they have entire, party wipe Starstorm Omegas, depending on the enemy, so...
New Age Retro Fat Rat down.
There he goes!
Huzzah.
The rat is down.
That's what he gets for being New Age. I don't know.
And
And
Andy is on to floor
9.
9.
I like this
So
music
we've
on
seen
9.
the lead as much as you can call a lead kind of bounce back and forth. Like I say, Andy came out to an early lead when he got that skip onto 8, but 8 was rather difficult for Andy. Temple got the skip onto 9 and found the Gigas room, but was not ready for the Gigas fight, and now has been trying to get ready for the Gigas fight, and that's not been the easiest thing either. So it's even kind of hard to say who is in the lead at this point.
And the big thing to this is we don't even know what the stats of Pokey and Gigas are in phase 1, 2, and 3 to even determine if any of them have a lead at this point. Sure, Temple knows where Gigas is, but it doesn't matter if it's a sucky fight or if it's an easy fight. If it's an easy fight, sure, but if it's sucky, they both will be in for a hard time.
That's true. Gigas has 3 phases. We've already talked about how the third phase of Gigas, you just have to keep someone alive and pray, and that can be hard or difficult depending on your item loadout. But the first phase of Gigas is maybe influenced the most by the randomness, and that it could be much easier than it is in vanilla, or it could be much, much harder than it is in vanilla. And a lot of that's going to come down to Pokey's hit points, Pokey's resistances, how much damage Pokey ends up doing. And then, of course, the normal randomness that EarthBound gives you along the way with, does Gigas do a PK Rock and Alpha or Beta on his first turn? Do you get the early Paralyze on Pokey off?
Who is the faster
EarthBound
character
already
for
had
your...
some... Yeah, that's true. So EarthBound already
Yes.
had some randomness with that phase 1 Gigas fight, and the randomizer just ups that.
So it's been a little bit since we checked in with our runners here. How are our runners feeling and what are they thinking?
Now that I'm on 9, I'm like, I really hope there's some more gear here on 9 because I didn't find it on 8. I'm really hoping for some kind of
Yeah,
flash. The big thing is just a flash resist item. All I have is an earth pendant, and that's not sufficient. I mean, under dire circumstances
Right.
it is, but ideally not.
Earth Pendants, in addition to reducing half damage from freeze and fire attacks, also do half reduction on flash attacks. And the flash attacks in Earthbound can be instant death. They just flick your finger and you're dead. And Gigas has flash attacks, and that's one of the biggest reasons that runners want to find sea or star pendants, because those eliminate everything that a flash attack does. No more instant death. No more even of the paralyze or the crying, the lesser damage of the flash attacks. So sea
No
and star
more
pendants are what you're
physical
looking for. As I was talking about the item pool rules, so 3 sea pendants and 3 star pendants are put into the item pool, and then like I said, about 40% of it is thrown away. So in any given seed, there's likely going to be at least 1 sea or star pendant. The odds of a seed with no sea or star pendants is extremely small. There could be up to all 6 of them, in which case you can have sea and star pendants on everyone. It's those middle ground seeds where there's 1 or 2 or maybe 3 that's in a really difficult location where you just kind of have to go looking for them. They're usually on floor 9. They can be on 8. I've seen them on 7.
Temple, how you feeling over there? We haven't heard from you in a bit.
I agree with Andy's sentiment about gear. I'm a little worried about the gear situation right now.
Maybe
but
this is
I
that
think
tricky seed that Airframe was talking about earlier.
could be.
I'm just following the directions of the runners here of what I was told.
Andy has
not
picked up the star pendant. That's the same star pendant the Temple picked up earlier.
Yeah, I'm not completely uncomfortable going up against Gigas right now, but a little more insurance would be nice.
And Andy has now found the Gigas room. He has a name to enter from the incentive. It's lowercase h and e. It's
come
only
on.
the letters. Hey, it's the incentive. You have to talk to Daniel.
Is everything else? Is it just normal capitalization from then on? Camel
Yes,
case?
it's normal camel caps. It's camel caps, yeah.
Where is that P?
This is one of the longest name entries I've seen in a while.
Just what a speedrunner wants.
At least they didn't have the mandatory one cutscene left in the game.
We did not see the showtime this seed. Sad.
I am going to look at the map now because I'm curious, because I didn't look at it in playtesting to see if it was in the seed.
It is. It's
Or where
on
it
floor
is that?
7.
Floor 7.
And both our runners skipped floor 7, so no showtime. And here is Face,
That's Ant.
or Spider, but you know. All right. So we see Temple has done sort of what we were talking about earlier. Temple has found a arms dealer, and this arms dealer does have super bombs.
Temple, where is he?
Somewhere.
I don't know.
So that's going to be a big help. Super bombs do around 300 damage, and it can't be reduced by whatever defense. So when we're coming to the Gigas fight phases 1 and 2, I was talking about how some of the randomness can make those phases difficult. It can also be made difficult if Pokey in phase 1 or Gigas in phase 2 has resistances to freeze or fire or any of the other, or a high defense stat, or anything else that can really lower the amount of damage you can do to him. However, super bombs are one of the things that there is no possibility for the enemies to have any defense against. It does the 300 and it does the 300. So if you have 10 super bombs, that damage is happening. So it's a really good find, a really useful find. For the same reason, the heavy bazooka would also be a good and useful find, and that the heavy bazooka is essentially infinite super bombs for Jeff. It's a good reason to keep Jeff alive if you can find the heavy bazooka. The heavy bazooka is again one of those items that could be it's in the item pool, so it either could show up in the cave or it could not. It could be part of the items that get thrown away. But if it does show up, it's usually on floor 9 because of it's a very good item. There's some other. Oh, there is one item that's changed a little bit in how it works here in the Ancient Cave as opposed to the vanilla game. You may be familiar with the Casey Bat. This is a item for Ness. It's a weapon for Ness that you get pretty in the middle-ish part of the game, I think. And it has an extremely high attack stat. It has the highest attack stat of any of the weapons, but you miss 3 out of the 4 times that you use it. It's a reference to Casey at the Bat. So part of having a high attack stat is the instant win mechanic checks against attack stat. It's one of the things it checks against. So if you have a strategy in vanilla EarthBound, is to have the Casey Bat equipped and walk into enemies where you can get an instant win, because then the fact that it misses 3 out of 4 times doesn't really matter. However, in order to make the Casey Bat more interesting and more useful, the Casey Bat shows up on usually like floor 1 or 2, but then we don't want you just instant winning and having no fun. So in the Ancient Cave, when you have the Casey Bat equipped, you can't get instant wins.
As long as I have other party members, I will equip it every time until I get like a mid-tier item.
Casey Bat is actually super valuable in my opinion for like boss fights. I think
having it on an.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think having it on early floor makes for an interesting gameplay choice and decision. And I've seen some runners use it and some don't, and I think that's really interesting. I think if there's
Andy,
any
you're
other
saying about the bat?
I think if there's any other items that work differently, we've talked about the exit mouse and the Casey Bat. I think those are the main 2 items that work differently. There's of course the Auto Star Master, which is a new item. Other than that, I think pretty much everything else works as it does in the vanilla game.
I think something to note is you have removed a few areas out of the randomizer. You will never get to Deep Darkness legitimately because of where it is at and how you get to it.
Yes, that's true.
No, Pooh, can you heal me? Or can you heal me, Room?
Yes, over the years we've had people run this. We've had a few different things that have broken the game or have been extremely unfun, and over the years we've patched most of them out. So I think it's down to a core fun experience that most people have a good time running.
We got time for a few donations?
Go for
absolutely.
it.
All right. We've got $100 from Jen Elric and Baby Erifram. Good luck, Andy and Temple. Keep those commentators on their toes. We have $10 from Janisic Gunleon. I never knew EarthBound Randomizer existed, but I am all for it. Keep up the awesome work, everyone.
Yeah, it's not just this one. There's also the PK Scramble Randomizer. So you have 2 different options if you want the Ancient Cave style or if you want a more traditional check item randomizer. They are...
Speaking of randomizers, who is my mom? Who is that?
That is...
I know it's
All right, there have been a lot of sprites, and I don't know them all.
That's a good question. Maybe the chat could tell us.
But yes, whenever you do a seed, as long as you have sprites on, in addition to getting whatever characters you choose, there will be a few other random custom sprites spread amongst the world. And you can check out all the sprites on the website for the EarthBound Randomizer. There's a little previewer that will show you what all the sprites look like. It's Rek from Dragon Quest, I believe.
You want to do a couple more donations?
Sure, I can do a couple more donations. We've got $20 from Mechalink. Race, 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 race. We've got $10 from Edward Malice. Great lineup of RPGs tonight between Final Fantasy X, EarthBound, and Pool of Radiance. We've got $100 from Margaret Ann. I'm so glad RPG Limit Break is back, and I wish I could be there. Wishing everyone the best in their runs this week and loving the marathon. Thanks for all the fun, friendos!
All right, we see Andy has decided to go for the big fight here. He has approached Gigas, and we're going to see some random text from Pokey here. We'll see if he goes slow enough for us to read it. Things so expensive.
It's a good question.
My hometown?
It's a good question. All right. So we've got some questions. Will the first turn paralysis work? Will Gigas hit us with a beta or an alpha? Those are the questions that we all know from vanilla EarthBound. It's an alpha. Love to see that.
We see that Jeff's stats are fantastic at 122.
The paralysis works, so that was as good a first turn as we can hope for. We go into the second turn.
Oh.
Yes. Yes.
Freeze does 19 damage to Pokey. That means Pokey is 90% resistant to freeze.
And Andy has entered problem-solving mode where he has to think out his inventory, his moves, and what he can do to get past this phase, and still have enough resources to deal with the other two phases.
There are some strategies here.
Or if he takes a reset and replans, resetting is legal in ancient cave races.
Yep. Well, I mean, one plan for this would be have an inventory full of super bombs.
Yeah.
But if you don't have that, here's the different strategy. We're going with a brain shock on Gigas. Now,
Andy, why would you do that?
Yeah, do you want to talk that out, Andy?
So putting brain
Or we
shock
can
on
if you're busy menuing.
Putting brain shock on Gigas means Gigas will sometimes target himself, and in so doing, target or hit armored Pokey. It does have the downside of targeting himself, and that gets reflected back and goes through your shield anyway. So it kind of makes your shield not less effective, but it's a way of putting out damage in this case.
Right, so it's a way of getting damage through. In the 50% chance when Gigas is confused that he attacks his own party with the Rock and Alpha or Beta, it will hit Pokey, and it will hit himself, which will reflect and hit your party. So you do take damage, but more importantly, Pokey takes damage. And when Pokey is 90% freeze resistant, you need any way for Pokey to take damage.
And we see Temple has also joined the fight here, also getting an alpha on the first turn, which is good because his Jeff has 110 HP. and hoping the paralysis will land, which it did not, and is going to work through his inventory and try to problem solve this as well.
All right, fight's always a little bit more difficult when the first turn paralysis doesn't work. That means Pokey is going to get off a hit, probably going to be lethal on whoever Pokey hits. But it turned out to be Paula, who has big, beefy HP this seed, so with the instant tech speed, we should be able to get around a life up, so that won't actually end up killing Paula.
Chaz, you think it's safe to give a little bit of a spoiler at this point for this fight?
Oh, we probably could.
All right, I'm gonna be honest. I am surprised Andy landed the first turn paralysis
it like
because
10%
Pokey
chance?
was very, yeah, it's extremely low. And the fact that you got a first turn between all the testers here, we were cursing it up. You sailed right through that one.
Gosh, a 10% or a 10% paralysis and immune to freeze armored Pokey, that's just vicious.
I was not one of the testers for this seed, so
He just
I
got to
claim
read all the
innocence.
chats about it. He was in the group. I have faith in both of our runners that they will be able to problem solve this fight. The runs of Agent Cave over the last couple of years since this was originally submitted for the 2020 RPG limit break before everything happened, the times have come way down since then, and it allowed more challenging seeds like this to be a potential in a race and a showcase environment like this. And thanks to everyone who has developed strats and just going through with it, allows challenging scenarios like this to happen and have a great time. Or in this case, a great time for us to watch them figure this out, and then they can celebrate after the fact.
Yeah, the skill level of the runners these days. If it's an easy seed, we often see easy seeds under 50 minutes. Sometimes we've seen seeds get completed in under 40 minutes. So, you know, it has to be an easy seed and everything has to line up just right. But
That was one. Oh, Temple is through phase 1 and moving into phase 2.
yeah, with the bag of Dragonite. Got reflected and took out Jeff, so we've only got 2 party members alive. And we get through this phase 2. He also doing the hard fight in phase 1.
And discovering the fact that Freeze also does 15 HP in that phase. One of the Andy did it on phase 1, but Gigas is especially brain shock susceptible during these fights, and it is a great strat for Gigas to waste turns because you're not worried about the attacks to reflect back on you at that point.
Yeah, Gigas in phase 2. Yeah, phase 2 freeze resistant Gigas isn't nearly as scary as phase 1 freeze resistant Pokey. For one, as you said, with the brain shock strat, there's no downside to it in phase 2. When Gigas targets himself, he just takes damage. You don't take any damage. So, and the brain shock is almost always successful against Gigas phase 2 and 3. So you already have the fact that Gigas half the time is hurting himself instead of you. Then you add on to the fact that you can get, assuming you're keeping your prey character alive, which hopefully you have a C or a star pendant, so the only thing that Gigas can do to your prey character is if he gets off a lightning attack, and that's only going to be a 1 in 4 chance for each bolt of hitting your prey character. Your prey character can also be praying to life up, even if they're not Pooh, who has his own native life up, so that's safer. And then additionally, if you don't have the psychic points on Pooh to brain shock, you can pray to get the confused status on Gigas via praying, in addition to the damage that you can do via praying. So freeze resistant phase 2, it's bad. You don't want to see it, but it's a lot easier than freeze resistant phase 1.
And talking about earlier on, we talked about Pooh's not wanting to like to wear equipment. This is one of the times once you reach this particular phase, you can equip the star pendant on Pooh and not suffer any consequences because you're not dealing with the physical attacks from Pokey anymore, and you're just protecting yourself from flash, ice, wasted turns, and just trying to survive. And if you have the Franklin badge, thunders, but that's only if you have the Franklin badge.
I think I find that most runners will go into this fight with the Seer Star Pendant on Pooh, and because the extra damage that you take from the Pokey physical attack generally doesn't matter as much as the chance that on that first turn when you go to equip, you end up dying to a flash attack. And Andy gets through that phase 1, no super bombs. No super bombs on a 90% freeze resistant phase 1, and he is through. Why I tell you, that's talent right there.
I've seen runners equip the Cloak of Kings on Pooh for the first phase just for the extra stats and the partial resistance just to deal with Pokey and then go through. But Chaz, why don't you talk about what you did to phase 3 of Gigas here?
Right, so in the vanilla game of EarthBound, each time that you pray here in phase 3, each of the 9 prayers shows a little cutscene showing all the people around the world that you've met along your journey, stopping to pray for your character. That's all nice, but it takes a lot of time, so we cut it out. So the whole sequence is a whole lot faster, as it just plays one random line and then it goes right back to the fight.
I can't remember the vanilla. Is it like, what, 10 minutes that gets cut down to short?
It's quite a long time, and especially depending on your equipment loadout, you might be 100% safe if you have a C pendant and a Franklin badge on your prey character. It's a long time of basically no danger whatsoever, just going through the motions of the 9 prayers. Now, of course, here in the Ancient Cave, neither of our runners has a Franklin badge, so they do have to try and keep their prey character Pooh lifed up enough to avoid the odds of getting lightninged twice in a row. It's not high odds, it's 1 in 16, but it would suck for it to happen. Or even worse, getting lightning once and being low enough on HP for that to take you out. You definitely don't want to be in that scenario.
Can I jump in really quickly for a small announcement?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Go for it.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to mention that right as this race ends, we are going to be closing the character name incentive for our next run, Pool of Radiance. So if you would like to see a particular character name, make sure you get your donations in for that fairly soon, because it looks like we are fairly close to finishing Gigas here.
We'll see.
Yeah, unless something really poor happens to Temple, we're probably a minute away. You know, I hate to put that commentator's curse on him.
I was holding back, Chaz.
Like I said, the main thing we're worried about here is the double lightning, which first he has to roll lightning, then which is a 1 in 6, I think. Then he has to hit twice, which is 1 in 16. So it's 1 in 6 times 1 in 16. And we have 2 prayers to get through.
Thankfully, Pooh is beefy at 227. All right, one more turn.
That's prayer. That's great. We're coming up on time. Here comes prayer 9. And there's prayer 9. That's time. Congratulations, Temple.
Well done.
It was a rough seed.
Thank you.
But he stuck it out. And is our winner of this Ancient Cave Randomizer race. And full credit for Andy going through this Gigas fight. It looks like, yeah. I mean, you made it through the hardest bit. I would say, unless you get, again,
I'm very fortunate.
Put this commentator's curse out there in the world.
I'm very fortunate. I stacked bottles of DX water.
Don't say it. Don't say it, Chaz.
Back on like floor 2.
Pooh's got the DX water. Back
on floor 2, I stacked
DX water
like 3 DX waters on Pooh. So I still have 2 more on Pooh.
Points. lets him get all the lives up that he needs, and the thunders in this case. So yeah.
Andy, I have to ask. You paused earlier on the chicken. Did you end up throwing the chicken at Gigas?
I did. Ness couldn't do anything else, so I threw the chicken.
That doesn't count as saving the chicken, Andy. You got to release
Okay.
the chicken into the wild. You can't throw it at an interdimensional horror. That does not count as saving
The chicken will have a good
chicken.
life.
Each of the randomizers has a little bit of a meme where you got to do something specific. For PK Scramble, it's each character has to brush their teeth. For this one, it is releasing the chicken not into the interdimensional space of doom. And in the credits, you'll see how many chickens you freed and how many no problem seers you have created in the run.
How much HP does this guy have?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Well, it's random.
I had to resort to prey strats when I tested this.
I gotta be close. I don't have
Tempo,
any
you
more.
were able to blast through a little quicker. Do you have an idea?
What was the question? Sorry.
Phase 2 HP.
I'm hoping it's close because I
Oh.
don't have another psychic point refiller. I have one more bottle of water.
It took me a while too. I was out of super bombs at that point, so yeah, I was basically doing what Andy's doing. The HP, I wouldn't say it's more than 2k. It's more between 15 and 2, if I was to guess.
War against Gigas is over. And then it'll go straight into our credit rolls. And as Airfran was saying, we have a few little statistics. So the cave length is if you just walked straight to Gigas. It's from the shortest path from the starting room to the ending room is 103 doors. It counts how many doors you ended up walking through, your level, your money, how many random battles you had, how many scripted battles and instant wins you had. So we track a few different stats to show them off here. One chicken freed. There he is. It's humane. And
One NPH.
one L button, no problem here. It's, when you use the L button to check or talk to someone, but you're not close enough, and you get the no problem here. We track those. You know, it's something fun.
I'll take
But
the
a
one
humane
and
and
one.
valid seed from Temple. Yeah, nice work. Oh, the full party line
And-
with the parade. Nice.
Yeah.
I forgot I
Is-
had a bag of
oh, and into
Dragonite
phase
hovering in my
3.
inventory.
Yeah, just that Dragonite off of
Nice.
Jeff will gets us on to phase 3. So 9 prayers away for Andy as well.
So just trying to dodge really just trying to dodge 2 thunders on Pooh, which if Gigas does it, it's essentially a 1 in 16 chance. Although I'll be throwing out a brain shock on
Right,
turn
1
2.
1 in 16 after the odds of him choosing Thunder is 1 in 6 after being brain shocked and targeting you is 1 in 2. So it's 1 in 2, 1/2 times 1/6 times 1/16. Just so you know exactly how bad the numbers are when it happens to you, and you just know exactly how much you should curse the gods of randomness.
So while Andy makes it through, we can go through the map a little bit here and reveal some of the things that were in or not in this. There was one Franklin badge on floor 6, right before the boss. There is 1 star pendant that I see, 3
Yep,
earth
and 1
pendants,
sea pendant.
and 1 sea pendant.
Where did
And that is
Temp-
it
so
for the
very-
critical items.
Temple, where did you find the super bombs? Did you take a skip backwards to find the super bomb
Yeah.
somewhere?
Yep, I skipped
Was it
backwards a couple
the
ways.
theater? Or the tiny ruby?
No, it wasn't Tiny Ruby. I think it was Iron Pencil, and I skipped into Threed, and Arms Dealer and Threed had super bombs.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
that
it
was
was
on
the
floor
That was
monkey,
floor 7.
floor 7. Yeah, and that was
Yeah.
the Monkey Cave Iron Pencil.
No heavy bazooka in this seed. No
Yeah, they
auto
really
star
threw
storm
everything
in the
at us.
seed.
Yeah.
They
Once I got
they
permission.
gave you a tricky one.
I also believe there were super bombs in the desert on floor 6, I think, from one of the playtesters.
Yeah, and there was like at least 4 elevators straight onto 9, so I imagine going on to 6 for any length of time was probably pretty rare.
Yeah, I didn't see 6.
So I'm about maybe they're 4 or 5 prayers deep, and I've dodged all the lightning so far. So we're doing okay so far.
Yeah, it's looking good.
And Rabbit's Foot was deep into Lost Underworld on 7.
I would have liked that for sure.
Yeah, I don't know how I would have gotten
Yeah,
through
all
this
those
without
multi-ball rockets.
the lucky paralysis apparently on turn 1. I just
Well,
I
it set
landed
you
it,
up,
so I
but I
assumed,
mean, that-
he's probably immune to freeze because everyone talked about how this is a difficult one, but they left him at 50-50 paralysis. Thank goodness.
No, you got it, but then you went right into the Brain Shock Phase 1 strats, and those are difficult strats. It's not easy to play through.
And if I didn't
you
pick up those
cranked it out.
bottles of DX water on floor 2 or whatever in Scaraba, this would have had no chance. Okay, time for
Did
me will
anyone
be in
buy
just a few
anything from
seconds.
the MBR vendor?
All
And time.
right,
GG,
congratulations,
Tom.
Andy. Good time in a rough seed. Showing off some amazing strats.
It's a very respectable time for both runners on this.
Yeah, we saw a lot of what this randomizer has to offer. I think it was a real fun showcase of some of the different things that we can see when you're playing the Ancient Cave randomizer.
Good to see the final call out for the Buka Appreciation Club.
And there
Shout
it
out.
is.
There it is.
Shout outs to Daniel for making that happen.
I'm so glad I was able to get through that Gigas fight. I don't know how I powered through that first try. I imagine finding out that he was immune to freeze, and then hearing that phase 2 was immune to freeze, I was like, I don't think I'm getting through this first try.
It's brutal.
No, it was an excellent Gigas fight. You were prepared. How did you know,
Apparently.
Pokey? Alrighty, I don't think we have anything else from our end.
No, AndyTemple, do you have any last shoutouts or words?
No.
Just thank to RPG Limit Break and the comms and everybody helped out.
Yeah, pretty much what Temple said. Thanks for everyone for watching. This was fun.
Alright, congratulations Temple on winning that Ancient Cave Randomizer race, and good job Andy making the race somewhat close. You both were on Gigas at the same time, that was pretty decent. Just got a couple donations that came in during the run. A $100 donation from Binskits, which says, "You cannot comprehend Gygas's iris percent. Gygax's iris percent." A quote from Simply Jeff, actually. We also have a $100 donation from Binskits, which says, "You Gygas attack the comprehend form of true." Boing. We have a $25 donation from KaiRam08. A chance to donate and also throw in a Golden Age 8 Advanced D&D character into the party? You bet! And that actually went towards naming one of the characters Midnight. We have a $50 donation as well as a $75 donation from Super Blood Wolfmoon. Thank you very much for both of those donations. We have a $25 donation from Turk Dog. If you ever need help, remember there are plenty of numbers to call depending on where you... Good mental health is suicide prevention. Don't suffer alone. And in fact, the main organization we are supporting, NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness's current work is informed by more than 40 years of inspiring conversation, support, and action that ultimately strengthens the fabric of communities and promotes opportunities to thrive for anyone touched by mental illness. NAMI draw on their past accomplishments, the wisdom of lived experience, and current scientific understanding of mental health to help those who are suffering. The last few years have been a stressful time in the world and have, understandably had a strain on many people's mental health. In the United States alone, 21% of adults have reported suffering some kind of mental illness. That's 52.9 million people. Please remember